I'm Logan Crawford, and right now on GBN, we're exploring a powerful book. It is called Trying for 55 Years Legal Cases That Effected the Law and Affected the Lawyer. It is a powerful legal memoir from veteran attorney Michael D. Schottland. Spanning more than 5 decades in the courtroom, this book pulls back the curtain on landmark cases, million-dollar verdicts, and controversial legal battles that shaped both American law and one lawyer's moral compass. It's a compelling behind the scenes look at justice, ethics, and the human cost of a lifetime spent fighting for clients. We're delighted to have this very talented author join us here today. We thank the team at Atticus Publishing for helping us put him on TV today. And we ask viewers like you to support authors like him by subscribing to our channel and by purchasing his amazing book. The links are below this interview. Michael, thank you so much for joining me here today.
My pleasure, I think.
It'll be a pleasure. We're going to have a good time. We already stipulated that we'd have a good time today in legalese, so that means it's a binding agreement.
Got it.
I I know when Clarence Darrow looks back at his career, the monkey trial comes to mind. When you look back on your career, what's the case that sticks with you?
Probably the host liability case. That was the case in 1984. If you went to somebody's house and you did drinking at their house, and then you went on the road and you blasted somebody as a drunk driver, uh, the drunk driver could sue the homeowner for getting you drunk. That was the case that ruined everybody's summer in 1982 or 84, I think it was.
I remember that well. I was just out of college in '84. And yeah, I mean, parents were, having wild parties with 16s and 15-year-olds there. And back then, I think it was still legal to drink at 18, but they were serving underage kids there, more or less. But but people were going out, driving, killing, dying, and to have that host liability was huge. It was a game changer. Tell us your role in all of that.
Well, I was the attorney who took the appeal. Our office had the case, and there was we lost summary judgment. In other words, the lawyer who represented one of the two defendants filed a motion for summary judgment, and the trial judge ruled that there was no legal authority to impose the duty on the homeowner and dismissed our case. So I took what's called an interlocutory appeal to the Superior Court Appellate Division, who absolutely made chopped liver of me at oral argument, almost like I was embarrassed, and I lost the case. And then the firm decided we dug in because we felt they were wrong, and we filed a petition for certification to the New Jersey Supreme Court, and surprise of surprises, they granted it. And then we took the case, and we got a 6-1 opinion in our favor, written by Chief Justice Valence. So that was my role. And then the case went back, and my senior partner tried the case and settled it for a respectable amount of money. So that's how
It
the
was a,
case
a,
went.
a game changer for sure. And I think there are host liability laws almost in every state in the nation now, right?
That's true.
Yeah. Wonderful.
Some
Wonderful.
some of them are good, some of them not so good.
Yeah. Yeah. When you look back on your career, and again, I'll reference Clarence Darrow, he said he never was sure he made the right choice when he chose the law, but he said he was intrigued by the clash of good minds. When you look back on your career, what do you think about did you make the right choice and what did you love or hate about it, or what did you love and hate about it?
Well, I'm sure I made the right choice. Uh, my father told me early on, you're going to be a lawyer. So I didn't have a lot of thinking about it. I applied to one law school and got lucky and got in and went about my business. Then I really enjoyed it. And when I stopped to enjoying it, that's when I decided to retire. I retired I think about 3 years ago, and I've enjoyed my retirement. But I enjoyed being a lawyer. I don't regret any of it.
How has the legal profession changed over the 5 decades that you practiced?
It's been a lot of change. A lot of it has to do with politics, which I'd prefer not to get into.
Right.
But most of the change has been that we've gotten too crowded for what I consider to be what law is all about, which is the weighing of thought processes and the weighing of legalese, where you decide whether you want to have this duty or that duty, and you make a decision as to which way you want to go. That was my way. And that has changed where people don't have a lot of time for that. And the judges are a lot in a hurry. Most of the judges are overtaxed, more so than they were when I started. And because of that, things are, they just don't have time to think about the stuff that we thought about. Really, it's different.
Yeah. Well, I guess, over those 5 decades, we added about 100 million people to the United States, and you add all those cases to the case log, and you get some very busy jurists,
You
that's for
sure
sure.
do.
Yeah. What was it
Yeah.
like going back and revisiting your life while writing this memoir?
Well, it was, I enjoyed doing it because I took forever, by the way. I don't know if you realize it. It took me somewhere in excess of 20 years or 25 years to write the book. In other words, this book started out trying for 25 years. That was the initial name of the book. And then from that point, I sat down and I wrote the thing up, got finished, and got finished is right now about a half of the book or less than half of the book would have gotten me finished 20 to 30 years ago. So now it's stretched out way more. It stretched out. I must have spent 30 years writing a book.
Yeah, amazing. Well, you've accumulated a lot of stories over those 30 years, so you did have a lot to tell. So I can see why it took. This was decades in the making. Um, you did both criminal and civil work.
Yes, and administrative law as well.
Yeah.
In other words, I had a lot of cases before the New Jersey Racing Commission. I had some cases before the pension board. These were dry cases, some of them.
Mhm.
They got interesting. In other words, I would bring an issue to a case, and sometimes we'd get into some pretty interesting territory. It was good. I enjoyed doing that.
So you were a bit of a maverick that you were willing to bring new aspects before the court. Um, I see a lot of lawyers don't do that. A lot of them kind of go with the flow. This is precedent. This is what we're supposed to do. This is how it's normally done. But you bucked the system a little bit and went for change. Tell us what was inside you that made you a little bit different than a lot of lawyers.
Well, it's because I love the law and I love the idea of tearing into a set of circumstances and figuring out how I want this to go. And that's what I was doing. And I was very lucky in my early years because the lawyer who took me under his wing, George Chamlin, he was willing to let me do my thing. In other words, he was willing to let me tinker. I used to call it playing sandbox. And that's what I was doing, playing sandbox with the law. And he allowed me to do that. I mean, I was always made a good earnings for myself and the law firm I was with, but that was not the what I was controlling me. That was not what was pushing me. What was pushing me was playing sandbox, the law. That's
Yeah.
all I can say.
Yeah. Yeah. You enjoyed being out there. Did you do debate in college or law school or all of that?
Not that much.
Yeah.
You know, I enjoyed my law school years. I was a research assistant to four of the professors at Rutgers Law School. And that experience, I got buried in the law. In other words, Really, I worked for the lawyer who represented Adam Clayton Powell in the Congress when they wouldn't seat him, and I worked on that case. And I worked on the case where they killed the three civil rights workers in Mississippi. And I worked with the lawyer who had that case, who worked at Rutgers Law School. His name was Arthur Kenoy. And I was doing stuff like you wouldn't believe while you're in law school. You know what I mean? It was really front row stuff. It's pretty interesting.
Invaluable experience, invaluable lessons in the law by doing that as well. Can you walk us through your first $1 million verdict and what it meant at the time?
Well, it was a case, it's an interesting case, I think. The client was a good friend of mine before he was killed, and he's driving a car over a bridge in Elberon, New Jersey, and he hit the guardrail. And when he hit the guardrail, they had set the guardrail up a certain way that it wasn't doing what it was supposed to do. And this guardrail trapped the car, and he ran along it, and then the guardrail disposed of the car over the side, upside down in 4 foot of muddy water. And the guy drowned. And he was a treating urologist, a really good guy, a good family man. And I had to sue the county of Monmouth. And I think I was very lucky to win the case because it turned out that the county had gotten a report from a bridge company that looked at the county bridges, which included this bridge. And they had said they were defective and that there was going to be an accident. And they were prophetic in what they saw. And so when I got hold of that report as part of my discovery package, the county had no choice. And then it was a matter of working up the case and working up the damages, which I did. And it was a wonderful feeling to be able to help these people the way I did. I mean, you can't bring the guy back, and it's a tremendous loss. But
You
his
can help take care
children,
of his family with the
yes,
settlement.
they didn't have to worry about it.
Yeah,
It was a wonderful feeling
yeah,
it's feeling of fulfillment. That's all I can say.
exactly. And
My
you
perspective.
finding that report is a matter of you doing a lot of hands-on. It's not like today where everything's digitized and you tap in a couple of keywords. You're going through files and folders and that kind of stuff, knee deep
Yep,
in it.
yep,
Yeah,
that's exactly right. I mean,
yeah,
I have another story which I think is even more interesting about this, if you don't mind me to
sure.
dwell on it. I had a case in which the injury was very unusual. It was a brain injury to a fetus. And what had happened was the fetus was one of two fetuses that were to be removed by an abortion for somebody who had gotten 4 pregnancies for one shot. And they take two and they inject, I forgot the name of the drug that they inject into the heart of the infant. They stop the heart from beating. That's how it's supposed to work. Well, this doctor, when he did the injection, hit the brain of the fetus. And the child only had half a brain, literally, and was born with half a brain. But it was very hard because it's a very unusual circumstance. It was very hard to get anybody to agree with me that that was caused by the injection because the kid also had on his foot a webbed foot like a duck. Instead of the toes being singular things, he had a webbed foot. And the doctor, who one of the smartest men I ever met in my life in University of Chicago, would not give me an opinion that it was causally related to the injection because nothing ever said about it causing this type of webbed foot. Well, we had a librarian at my office, and that librarian found in French an article written by a group that had discovered that if women got an injection during the 11th week of pregnancy, which was the same week that the baby got the injection in my case, they could get a web foot. She translated the French for me and gave me the report. I sent it over to the doctor in Chicago, and the guy wrote me a report airtight. They settled the case with me for almost $4 million, like 2 months after they got the report tying in the French situation with this. And there it was. And that's, I mean, how do you figure that? You don't anticipate something like that.
Exactly, exactly. But again, you guys kept on pushing, kept on trying, kept on digging, kept on doing your research. In fact, members of your office were doing the research as well until you came up with that one game changer piece of evidence. And amazing. The whole book is amazing. It's a great walk down memory lane, a life well lived, as well as a career well executed. The name of the book is Trying for 55 Years, Legal Cases That Effected the Law and Affected the Lawyer. It is a gripping memoir that brings the courtroom, the cases, and the conscience of a lawyer vividly to life. Michael, thank you so much for joining me here today.
Thank you very much. It's been my pleasure, really.
It's been a pleasure speaking with you as well. I appreciate your time, your insight, and the wonderful work you've done on this book, and of course, throughout your career as well. To the folks at home, I'm Logan Crawford for the Global Book Network. So long for now.